thing, but you think it's probably just about the energy and how we need a green future and we need renewable sources, and that is dinosaur energy anyway. I agree. I'd like to see some new energy come to market. I'd like them to stop suppressing alternative energy. But that's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen with phony green friends on the left who are really just dictators and occupationists in the Obama administration. Why do I say that? Because they're also going after rainwater. Yes, they've arrested a man in Oregon on the basis that he cannot collect his own rainwater. Sound incredible? It's true. Today, Jackson County, Oregon says it's your rainwater, and the country has sentenced a man to 30 days in jail and fined him $1,500 for the supposed crime of collecting rainwater on his own property. The man's name is Gary Harrington, and he owns over 170 acres of land in Jackson County. On that land, he has 3 ponds, and those ponds collect rainwater that fall on his land. Common sense would say he has every right to the ponds with the water on his property, but common sense has been all but abandoned. And here they are arguing that once it heads towards natural waterways, it's no longer your water, no longer the Earth's water, but the government's water. But the issue is, in fact, bigger than that. But I would point out, this has been in the media for over a week. I've heard the audio commentary from this guy, Harrington, and he's quoted in part as saying, when something's wrong, you just as an American citizen have to put your foot down and say, this is wrong. You can't just take away any more of my rights from here on in. I'm going to fight it. As you well know, they're going after everything from backyard gardens to lemonade stands, raw milk, Amish growers, Amish dairy people, you name it. They're coming after individualism in this country because they're pushing collectivism. Now, according to Oregon laws, one must obtain a permit in order to have a reservoir. But Harrington had the permits for the reservoir. In 2003, he was granted the permits, but the state reversed the decision, then come along to seize his rights to collect water, and now we're putting him in jail, which he's basically going along with as an act of civil disobedience, as an act of saying if you're going to be a tyrant, then you be a tyrant, as a Henry David Thoreau move of saying the best place in an unnatural state, in a corrupt state, is in prison, because that's the only place for a righteous man. Bad paraphrase of that quote, but it's on the record. But why is this a bigger issue than just rainwater collecting in Oregon? Well, it's because since at least 2010, they've been doing it throughout the Southwest. Many western states in this previous article, collecting rainwater now illegal in many states as big government claims ownership over water. Another Mike Adams article. He points out how many western states, including Utah, Washington, and Colorado, have outlawed individuals from collecting rainwater, calling it an unlawful diversion of rainwater. What turning of natural rights, of common sense, all on its head, and claiming that government has the default rights to something that comes naturally on the earth instead of an individual. That's the reverse of the way the Constitution was written and understood, where all rights are kept to the people and to the states except those very few that are enumerated and specifically given to the limited federal centralized government. All that has turned around over these centuries, and now collectivist big government assumes the right until you're proven innocent, until you're proven to have some kind of individual right for something as necessary and basic to survival as water. The infringement on the right to things like collecting rainwater, which falls from the sky, total act of God, no intermediaries, there's no state function between where that rain falls and the individual or the creatures in the forest, but they want to control it. Who else wants to control it? The private sector does. They've been trying to privatize water rights around the world, again, to infringe on things like the individual's right to collect water. It happened in South America. Why? Because you've got these predatory institutions like the World Bank and IMF, which are just sister, twin, hydra, evil, deviant creatures that piggyback off of each other. And they say, well, we've got country A, it's in serious debt, they really need to reform. We've got a great program to correct their economic downturn and turn things around in maybe 20 or 30 years. So we're going to put on these really burdensome loans at interest rates we know the country can never pay back. And through that loan, which is sold to the people and its leaders on the basis of doing them a favor and helping them out of a crisis, as they're doing today in Europe with the crises going on there economically, they convince people to take on what is not only a predatory loan, but a predatory set of conditions. Those conditionalities determine the way that country is allowed to develop for the next many years. Now, the rubber hits the road in the case of Bolivia. In 1998, through the course of an IMF and World Bank loan, and one sets up the loan conditions, the other monitors it and regulates it, they privatized the water rights. They took away the public water utility, which I'm sure had its own flaws, its own need for correction, and they gave the water rights away through privatization to the Bechtel Corporation, one of the biggest and meanest no-bid contract utility companies around the world. They're tied to all our same friendly administrations, and they're predatory. In the case of Bolivia, they were not even allowing people to collect rainwater. And in this case, I've got PBS's Frontline reports, and they've got a timeline where they chronicle the new IMF policies, how this led to water privatization through the loan assistance, and how they handed this over to the Aguas de Tunari entity, which was really just a front for the Bechtel Corporation and a few other select entities, which were all multinational occupation forces there in Bolivia. I'm not backing socialism in Bolivia or anything else, but the people rioted in the streets of Bolivia. They rioted over this water thing. They couldn't take no for an answer because they're so poor there. They couldn't take them saying no to the ability to collect rainwater. And I'm not calling for riots, but mass demonstrations does make a lot of sense if we don't stand up to an issue as invasive as telling us we can't collect water rights because the government has a right to it, or that some corporation has the right to distribute water. Well, we're clearly not going to make it. I just want to bring your attention to the point that this is an ongoing, long-standing plot to take control over our water, our air, you name it. And again, this is all part of the larger United Nations agenda, too. So it's a mix of privatization schemes as well as total government control. Under things like Agenda 21 and through quotes throughout time, you see these environmentalists who all want to save the earth and bring peace and justice to every little country around the world telling us they will control the commons. What are the commons? It's the things that go everywhere in the world: the air, the water, and the land. And those are the very things they want control over, even within our countries here in the United States and the countries around the world. This is a loss of sovereignty, in this case over water and everything else. You've seen it coming down the pipelines. Look up Agenda 21 Oceans. Look up the U.S. Oceans Council. This is all happening, and this incident with the rainwater is part of it. Now, I can't continue to rant, but it just freaks me out that they could tell us we can't even collect rainwater on our own property. Total invasion of property rights. So you can see whether it's privatization where they want a monopoly of profits or the state where they want a monopoly of power, they're not interested in individuals having an alternative, in this case to rainwater, because it cuts into their domination. Meanwhile, while more things are becoming crimes we didn't think could be crimes, more people are becoming pre-crime suspects before they even carry out crimes. Well,